We can't let people throw around that word. I call it the N word. There are two N words, and you can't use either of them. You can't use either of them. And frankly, if it does get to use, we have more than anybody else. We have better.
Peace and blessings, family. Sister Ajali. Yeah, this one gonna be long, but it is gonna be packed, okay? Because nobody, and I don't want to be the only one, but nobody is putting all of the current just madness together with the radiological facts so that we can understand what we're looking at. And then it's not as disturbing as they wish. They so very much wish it were. Even Trump can't say the N word, or at least I think with his folks, the, N-word as it refers to us gets slathered around all over the place. That's probably why they have absolutely no black people in his administration whatsoever, though I understand that, who's that doctor? Ben Carson. I hear rumors that they're going to bring him back, and he's just like a super dripping Procyon loader. Yeah, they have no one there, so they don't have to worry about trying to rein in their just absolute flippancy when it comes to how they feel about us. But the other N-word that Trump was putting in with that one, nuclear, really? You guys can't talk about nuclear. That is an incredible farce, as all him and Putin do is threaten each other with nuclear bombs. And even in that talk he was giving, that was just kind of a little on the strange side. He was using at the end of the clip that I listened to all the way through. Or yeah, and I played that part too. He was saying, well, our bombs are bigger than yours. We're 10 years ahead. You know what? He's right about that, but it's an option that is inconsiderable, because it just would destroy everything. And, like structurally, they're already with the radiation as particles are killing everything and destroying a whole bunch. The entire aviation industry is, I don't know how long it's got before it becomes obvious it's real hazardous to go up in a plane. But yeah, they just talk and threaten each other back and forth. And even Trump admitted that even if someone is 10 years, 15 years behind the US, or you could just have one nuke bomb that'll cause devastating damage. So 10, 15 years difference makes no difference whatsoever in the impact. And that segues to what I have to emphasize. It's not the mechanisms on a nuclear bomb that makes them deadly. It's the radiation, the level of heat. Paul Mobley did an excellent, just, little video documentary about uranium, depleted uranium, U-238. And it explained how it is armor piercing, because it's so hot that as it's barreling into these thick, it's tanks, the heat it generates keeps sharpening the tip, so it barrels all the way through. And then he went on to explain how if you're breathing in the particles, it creates absolute chaos and replicating chaos inside your body. And depleted uranium has a full lifetime of 450 billion years. When they say half-life, times whatever number they put out there by 100 or at least by 10, okay? Because that is how long it will take for the entire sample of uranium to decay into its daughters, which are then still radioactive. And so there's so much going on right now, and I haven't spoken to you, family, in a while. I entreat you humbly to listen to the entire share. You are gonna be astounded. And go to 25,000yearcycle.org and support my ability to do this. I mean, this brother A, I'm thanking you big time for this. The atomic bomb suppress. This sucker is what Trump is talking about. Why they can't say N? Because when I'm going through the history of how they enacted nationwide censorship in Japan over everything, I'm looking at the mind of a cancerous system, a thought-born cancerous system that never needed nuke bombs in order to infest whole regions and wipe entire people out of existence, which is what they planned for black you and me. If there are white people, Asian people, whatever type of people that get in the way of doing that, their ultimate goal is to keep us who we have a propensity in our system, in our melanated nature, to prefer truth over lies, to prefer decency over just cruelty. And whereas for them, that's just simply modus operandi. That is how they get the business done. So going through this book, and it's hard because I'm not going to put any marks in it whatsoever because it's such an expensive book. But the details about how they accomplish what they did, and I'll show this one graph, it's too just intensely complicated for this to have been anything but the way that they handle everybody and everything everywhere. Because when they went in Japan and they set up a whole censorship office, and they use the word censorship. From Japan, they learned that, let's not use the word censorship because that gets people upset. Because at the same time, they were saying, but we were trying to use censorship so we could get them into loving freedom and democracy. But that's not what it has been at all, because the next chapter I'm getting to is over the censorship as it regards to the bomb itself. And she's already hinting that much of what happened with the other types of censorship where they were trying to, nullify the militaristic mindset of the Japanese, that was all set up for the bomb itself. Because otherwise she wouldn't have titled this The Atomic Bomb Suppressed, okay? But this right here is just the structure, and Douglas MacArthur was head of it. He was like the supreme commander. It was almost like this holier than thou type of title that he had, and he was given complete power over everything. But they was just different chiefs, assistant chiefs, and just all of these different people who were in charge of reading everything and nixing out anything just based on how they felt about it. So when I think about, Trump can't say nuclear, and then the way that they have censored and shadow banned my voice, Dana Durford's voice, and Kevin Blanchett, and those two, they're white guys. They're white guys talking about a very serious topic that nobody else that I see on social media brings that level of consistent truth about what the world is facing, whether, you could have all sorts of other opinions, but that has stayed consistent with those two guys. As white men, they should have 1 million followers, each of them by now. Right? But that's not the case at all. And dear brother Yapo, love you, brother, had left a comment. And usually his comments are removed, but saying, the loss of my 22,000K larger platform, I never, ever advocate violence. But that other N word, this is still what they do when it comes to radiation, except for, they'll talk about the bombs. They'll mention the bombs, but they won't mention the particle radiation and what that is doing right now, especially since Fukushima, which 2 years after the explosion, a Japanese professor said it was the equivalent of 10,000 Hiroshima bombs. 2 years! It's been 14, going on 14 and a half years. And it's going up exponentially, according to TEPCO. But when I mentioned that, there were certain people who just didn't say anything else whatsoever. But I still have all those, screen captures and copies of my videos that, they took the channel down, but I luckily archived my own stuff on separate external hard drives. They can talk about the bombs, but they never ever go over the hell of the low-level radiation. And that is incredible, because that's where our enemy, not because we want him to be our enemy, but because when you kill the Pacific Ocean, you are the enemy to all life, because that's where we get most of our oxygen from, along with a huge portion of human population gets its food from the Pacific Ocean. You are the enemy. You really are the enemy. So these are not things that they don't know about. This is a book written by J.M. Gould and Benjamin A. Goldman, Deadly Deceit, Low-Level Radiation, High-Level Cover-Up. I have read so many of these books at this point in time that I forgot I read this one. Look how many tabs I got on this baby, okay? I'm just like, I could just open up a page and, find what I was talking about, because it's just so much fact-based documentarian evidence in here that this ain't no joke. They know what's going on, but Trump, they can't say the N-word, because then people like me gain credibility with those of us who, because of our humanity, require big crowds in order to verify, maybe I should listen to this because it's okay, right? Rather than just looking at your sister and seeing that I've been talking about stuff that's popping off right now since Fukushima. And you need a crowd. They're going to just wipe out the crowds with that particle radiation. And so Trump and they can't say anything credible to thwart it. All they can do is censor. All they can do is shadow ban. Because even if they said anything, oh my goodness, they would be buried by the facts. Right? I don't even know what this quote says. I'm just going to read it right here. We then found a statistically significant correlation between changes in infant mortality over the past 2 decades and regional risk of exposure to milk contaminated from civilian reactor emissions since 1974. The 14 states in the Midwest and Mid-Atlantic regions with the greatest risk of exposure to contaminated milk also had the worst infant mortality performance. Oh my goodness, that reminds me. This right here is my bookmark history of our young deaths. This is the file name down here. This is dedicated to all of these people who I used to do shares covering almost each one as they happen. but we don't watch this sort of thing. And this right here, this just broke my heart. She never came back home. 7-year-old child dies after collapsing at after school program. And the beautiful, beautiful little girl, Angel, oh, the Angel Lewis, Precious Lewis, was her mother. And who expects something like this? They said she died from having an undiagnosed enlarged heart. I'm splicing this in the next day because there's a just further bit I have to say in terms of the censorship aspect. That's what this share is about. But I will get back to explaining little Precious's undiagnosed enlarged heart. But first, what Trump was indicating was censorship by stating you can't say two N-words, but what he really can't say is nuclear. So the entire scope of this share is about how their censorship is being used to commit an absolute atrocity that we have the power to stop right now if we do not succumb to the social engineering aspect of their censorship, which is set up so that they can control the general population's conclusions about who, whatever their targeted group is. And in the book by Monica Braw, it was a Japanese, but for Black us, as long as we believe their lies, then we succumb to their programming. This right here is a book written by Dr. Yuri Bandashevsky, and I note that all of his other PDF available publications are, you can translate them, or they come in a separate translatable form. You see a couple things here which are in English, but the entire 41 pages of this sucker is in Russian. And I translated, usually in Google Translate, all of it, not all of it, but I think I got up to page 20 before I was like, oh my God, this will take forever. I noticed every page I translated just disappeared and it says file missing. It doesn't give you a reason why. But in this translation, this is one of just that little section that it was in blue that I translated, where they say, I'm going to read it. Unfortunately, in 1986, at the time of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant accident, such a strategy was absent. Assessments of radiation risks to the affected population were conducted solely on the basis of information on the impact of external radiation exposure on the human body. And that is the standard they developed with the censorship in Japan regarding Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And so the health hazards of radionuclides incorporated into the body, including cesium-137 and strontium-90, were completely ignored. And internal radiation exposure was considered equivalent to external radiation exposure, and it's not at all. That little depleted uranium bullet that is so hot it keeps shaving off a new sharpened point so it never dulls when it's piercing something. That is a whole different physiological reality. That when it's in your body, the damage is far greater. And also reading through that book that Dr. Bandashevsky wrote, so many quotes where his autopsied analysis of the victims of Chernobyl, he found that the radiation, cesium-137 specifically, because it operates like potassium in the body, it is absorbed in huge percentages directly into your heart, where it then pulverizes it. He said that these people, he started calling it Chernobyl heart, where their hearts were turning to mush. Well, that's what's going on with our youth. So I dedicate this share, which I want to call it almost a documentary in and of itself, but I want to dedicate it to all our fallen. We cannot afford to engage in any more magical thinking. We cannot let our simple, wonderful human tendencies for comradeship and just for community to be taken advantage of by devilish people who shout out what they plan. Because I know they're like, yeah, but how will we protect ourselves from what? Nobody was bothering anybody till you guys showed up trying to figure out how you could steal everything. Let's just return to living life. And yes, that means we have to get rid of all the nuclear, which is not really going to happen now that they've unleashed it for 450 billion years. But I'm sure our progeny will be much more inspired if they know we said you ain't doing that to us anymore. They'll be inspired enough to do what's got to be done with that radiation, which is you have to keep maintaining it. You have to keep reburying it again and again and again. That's what, I knew about that before I read this book, but what's going on with Hanford? Nobody could ever walk away from Hanford and what continues to happen under the soil and all of those unlined barrels by the, I don't know if there's like 100,000 or some crazy number. It might be less, but it's all destructive to the only planet we have. So you can't find this video. This is covering the explosion from Fukushima, and it was produced by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Agency. Everything I'm reading in Monica Brau's book, The Atomic Bomb Suppressed, they make up the censorship as they go along, which I've encountered every single step of the way. In doing what I'm doing, I thought, oh, we're just going to, you want to be about saving people's lives. That's not what they want. And so let's see. I don't know. Okay, there it is. It is. There's Japan. This is just two isotopes, cesium and iodine-131. Blam! There's the United States. This stuff ain't gone away. It has not gone away. What's going on the West Coast right now is a covert evacuation. And it's time because they want to hide it. It's that censorship again from all the people. But you can see this is just, it's gone. According to the International Nuclear Test Bomb Treaty Organization, the radiation went everywhere. It went down to the southern hemisphere too. So there's no place on our planet where we're not going to encounter this stuff, but there are steps to take. Oh, hallelujah that I read like I do. There are steps to take to mitigate this stuff out of our bodies. I don't know if we could get it out of our earth, but I know the one and only. I call him Allah. You may call him Yahweh or another beautiful name. He has a lot of beautiful names. He said, ask for this planet back and he will give it to us. He might just wind up giving us a whole new heaven and a whole new earth, but whatever way that he has planned, that's who you want to be with. So I also want to preface this, I haven't really even gotten started yet, by saying I wish absolutely no one any harm. I am not here to defame any race of people, but as we have become drawn into their obfuscation, it's absolutely absolutely required that we examine the pathology of every single group of people directly involved in genociding us. That's the least that we can do. I do not advocate violence. That is, I see the little traps that they've set for us. The devil is very static in what he does and how he does it, because he's going up against the most impervious defensive weaponry ever created, and that's the truth. And it even says in, I don't know if it's the Quran or the Bible, but I think it's the Bible, where he says he gave us the best weapon there is, and that is the truth. And he warned us, the vengeance is his. And I love that is not off our hands. We don't have to do anything against these people. We simply have to champion the truth. And so in anything I'm going to share, I wish no individual group of people any harm whatsoever. I know even at this point, we could all work it out. But we can't work it out without a planet. We can't work it out with everybody bowing down to Satan, okay? This is the website Armageddon Pros. I know I ain't mad at white people for wanting to stay white. I ain't mad at you for that. I'm severely troubled by how gullible you dudes are, simply based on your terror of damnation. I'm not here to fix you. That's on you, right? You are so incredible that then you got to work this out for yourselves. But you got agents all over the place taking advantage of how fragile you are, how much you are prone to self-hatred. They said no white guilt, but they know they can't get away with saying no white hatred. And I mean white on white hatred. Okay? And so I'm just saying, I know this dude is not somebody that I would ever be hanging anywhere near. But at the same time, he'll say some truth. Every now and then some white channels or sites will say some truth. So this one right here, this is ridiculous. Inside the public, this one, I was so livid when I watched this little trailer that I almost did this share yesterday live. I was like, okay, pull back, queen, right? Because I had stuff to do and I'm not going to let these devils take me off my schedule, all right? I own my peace. They don't. So inside the public school librarian jihad to keep transgender propaganda on shelves. Notice up here, we all know everybody's upset about this. They're lying when they try to make it seem like this whole LGBT, the alphabet folks, is on us. We know that's a lie, but we don't own their media. We don't own the ways that they keep doing that daggone censorship and shadow banning, and they're coming up with all sorts of ways where, well, I'll go over that later. But, yeah, I found it very interesting. Dude starts out with, it's transgender. Yeah, we all can go along with that. We have to stop lying to these people. No, you were born one sex. The incidence of, people with both sexual organs, androgyny, that is negligible at the very best. Okay? It's a mutation. It's not a new type of human being. All right? And so I found it really interesting that he went from, it's about the transgenders, to, in Texas, the Krauss list targets 850 books focused on race and LGBTQ. Can't seem to highlight that, but you can hopefully see my cursor very clearly against a black background. But an LGBTQIA whatever plus, that means when they put the plus in, they mean the pedophilia too, okay? And the bestiality. It's not bestiality as far as I'm concerned. If it ever was, then that just says these people have been degenerates forever. And so, how, race, what? But up here, was transgender. And then when I went to look at this, oh my God. And so this is the trailer that when you look up top here, when you see something that's got all these daggone awards, you know, this is a setup. That's what they do. That's what Monica Braw and so many others have gone over, that they have a military that is far broader than just the dudes wearing suits, just the dudes Trump was talking to. Okay? They have undercover military, which is controlled ultimately by Satanists. He should have just been in front of a whole coven of his, both eyes closed, whatever, one eye open types of dudes. That's where he should have been doing his little lecture, saying, Pete Hegseth. Okay? He shouldn't have been at Quantico. He should have been at the Satanic Coven. So that's their military. And with this right here, this little production, I don't know if it's pro or anti. I don't care. But the thing is that it's supposed to be about the wokery. I thought that was Dylan Mulvaney and all of that madness. We ain't going around recommending chopping up little children unless you're Michelle Obama, but she's on board for the whole thing. Right? Because I know sooner or later they're going to drag Obama's degeneracy out in the open. Hallelujah for that. But we already know about it. Ain't nobody out there who was happy to hear that Obama was on the down low with the church that he used to go to. Right? Nobody was saying, oh, wow, I think that's the way I feel too. No, that's not us. But they will promote us that way. In the media, all of a sudden you had an increase in depictions of homosexual and other types of deviancy. And the way the group that had the largest rise in that was Black, you and me. And these actors and actresses are a very, very small percentage of our people, but because they have such a global influence, people are ready to stereotype us. They love it. They just, the whole world over, everywhere I have looked and seen, because of social media, I'm like, that over there, them people over there are magnitudes worse than what we are. But that's not the point. And so in this trailer, they're going over, how all these books are being removed. And the first two books they show are about Black people. Black people. That's what I said. They needed to attach us. They had that, no more disco riot that happened in a baseball stadium like decades and decades ago. You could, put that in your search link and find out more data about that, where the owner of the stadium, after so much damage had been done, apologized and said, I didn't know that we were, saying hurtful things against the gays and the Black people. Like, what? Why are we being pinned together? But we're so nice back then. And I didn't know. We're so nice. And sorry about that. I think I was blocking the title. But we're so nice that we're, okay, they marginalized and they're not treated well. And so we were amenable. But now, this was the point. These people, they strategize. They strategize because they're all about war. They're all about trying to defeat Allah's truth. That is not possible. But Allah ain't looking for popularity. Right? He's not looking for everybody. Oh my goodness, great. Even though it says in the end everybody will bow down, that might be only two people. I pray I'm one of them. I don't know. I'm not Allah. Maybe there's something I'm doing that he's like, nah, you out. I bow down still. Right? No matter what, I'm bowing down. Because I know these people are filthy. They're disgusting. They're threatening the safety of children. Stop. So going back to Brother Mad Black's video share that he did covering Umar begging for cash. We all know Umar is more than likely we can conclude, based on the evidence, that he working for somebody. He ain't working for us. He working for somebody, right? But when I saw this bandana, I keep analyzing these things afterwards, because I was just like, what this is a Chinese flag up in here. And this is I think is Ethiopian flag or Somalian flag. I'm not sure now of which one, but it's the wrong daggone direction. It's upside down. It's the goat symbol. It's satanic, right? And for him to have that on his head, and clearly he definitely looks like he got that ritual beat up or beat down, because his eye, he could have put on makeup, or he, whatever. But it's definitive. Even Elon Musk got his little black eye, and bunches of them show up with their black eyes. All right. And so I'm like, what are you doing with this? You the Prince of Pan Africa, right? I guess that's why they had to let's put this one here. But, this will be funny. Let's put it in a satanic way. Okay? And then you got China over here. They're trying to put us in the mix with China also. And what's that got to do with the N-word? I'm just saying, the better to genocide you with, my dear. All of us. Where, oh, wow, look, these black people, they're all woke. They support mutilating babies. And also the CCP. Where the CCP, when I know that these nations are colluding, because why in the hell is it taking so long to transfer TikTok to the Israelis, or to, I understand ain't no Americans buying it, ain't nobody who's like not compromised in some way. And TikTok is constantly up there with these black folks that, in my conclusion, they just looking for the bank. I'm not saying they're operatives, but they're all glowing about China. Oh, don't you? And I want to specifically state, because I did it at the beginning, I am not against the Chinese people. I hope they can work out what is obviously a genocide against them. In my firm conclusion, they want the Chinese out in the streets so they could just wipe them out even easier, and nobody has to wonder, were those bullets radioactive? Don't need to be to get the job done. I'm just saying. They were training the Chinese police in crowd just takeover, not even crowd control. They got so many wild things going on in China that anybody who is sharing something positive about what's going on in that beleaguered nation is a idiot times 5 gazillion, or they were paid to do that. And so to see them juxtaposing that, and then to see this mess, CCP flag hoisted over City Hall, what's Philly doing? Forget Philly. What are the satanic elites doing? Because this is the mayor of Philadelphia, Cheryl Leslie Parker. Beautifully black. The wig is just bringing her down. I'm just saying. All right. This is the same thing with the wokery, where they're going to suture us to communism. That's what they tried to do with BLM. Oh my goodness, I was trying to find a not too horrifying documentary about Ida B. Wells. I just have such a yearning to understand that system more. And they have these wonderful Chicago Stories documentaries that are I was enjoying them very, very much. And so they had a documentary on her, and I said, okay, let me give it a shot. At the very outset of the documentary, they had BLM up in there. Like, that sister would have been proud of an organization that came out the bat saying that they were there to destroy The black male hierarchy. I was like, God damn, what are you talking about? And then when you do the research, you find out, I found out, everybody found out, that they were supported by George Soros, who they don't even want him in his home country. Right? And all of them, I don't know if all of them, but I know the Patrice Cullors, as I remember, spent some serious time in China. And they're just straight up CCP believers. They're believers. And I know the Black Panther Party was all about the communism, but I'm like, if you read Mao's Little Red Book, you would not be about the communism. But back in those days, our standards were a little bit more hazy. Like they let the Japanese guy in to the Black Panther Party, and later on it was revealed he was a straight up agent. Elaine Brown, in my firm conclusion, straight up agent. Right? She went around causing chaos and havoc everywhere she went. Okay? And so for them to do something like this, and then with the LA ICE riots or whatever the heck, there were people walking around with the CCP flags on their backs. And you're in the unentitled snakes of America, and you're walking around with an its acknowledged enemies flag on your back. That's gigantic. I do believe, because the CCP is riddled all up in Mexico and Central America and South America. They're all in that. They are controlling ports. They are closing down lots of indigenous peoples and other citizens' businesses, because the Chinese have been broken. They've been so broken. So when they are being treated badly at their job, they ask for more time to work, never less. Right? They got the thing that is just standard, 996, where you work from 9 in the morning to 9 in the evening, 6 days a week. And that's if you're doing a job where, they're not even asking you to do so much. There's also overtime, which is required. Okay? And so they, once again, want to give us a false hope. And I'm sure at a certain point in time, there's going to be new militaristic black power groups coming up that are going to be given armaments by the Chinese. Wow. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be amused, but I'm just saying, if you do no research about the weaponry being produced by China, you are a sitting sucker duck. Their weapons, now that's one thing. Even a small nuke, even shoot, one atom in your body is going to cause you severe damage of radiation. But where a small nuke will still cause damage, no, we're not talking about that. We're talking about guns and, whatever. Because that's what they'll go in fun splinter groups that they make sure are just riddled with weak people. Like you'll be going to a pro-black militaristic force run by Nasty X. Okay? That's going to be the level of it. And the Chinese are going to give them all the weapons they could ever ask for that will fall apart and explode in their faces because they're so shoddily made. So shoddily made. The CCP had a military parade. Only dictators have military parades. Trump did too, okay? And most of the weapons that they were showcasing in that parade were fake. They were fake. They were not real. Okay? They are building up to war. And that's why, at Quantico, Trump and Hegseth are up there talking to the generals because everybody's gotten fat, even the enlisted men. And they really have a hard time finding the recruiters have a hard time finding anybody to join the military these days. People prefer the truth. All people of all races prefer the truth. It's just that they hate us that much. I was watching a Korean drama about a superhero chick who was raised in a Mongolian farm, by mistake, and then she was brought back over to Korea. And the worst enemy she had to fight, and I didn't watch it past them constantly putting out this picture of a black man. And I'm like, who do you think are the sexual tourists coming on over to all them Asian nations and taking advantage of your children? It ain't black us. We don't do that stuff unless we have been way too close to the white people. As Brother Yapo Yapo always says, the closer you are to white people, the more insane you get. Okay? So that's that stitching us up with the wokery, like we're the new gay. No, that's when we are destroyed. We think that being with the same sex is anything but a ghetto of oneness. I'm not going to go into it deeply. I'm just saying, right? Like Muta Baraka, one of my favorite quotes from him his rap was, "It's no good to stay in the white man country too long." Did it? Okay? I'm just saying, it is what it is. And so if you need to verify what's going on, I mean, you used to be able to go to other channels, find out what they're subscribed to, because the recommendations from YouTube were crap, absolute crap. And that's what I used to do. When somebody would newly subscribe, I would go and say, oh, I wonder what they're watching, and I could find some good stuff out there. That's not the case anymore. All right. That's, as I said, with Monica Braw. She wasn't kidding. The atomic bomb suppressed, and they never stop. So just like, I'm just going to scroll through some of these titles here that I watched, and you can go and find the truth about why, no, China ain't for us. They ain't for us. Send them back. Chinese tourists face karma for global chaos. All of these different channels that will talk about Japan or South Korea, they never mention the Chinese. They were going on about this dude named Johnny Somalia, who, in my firm conclusion, he was an operative, just same as that poor, I don't want to say poor because he did kill somebody, but that man who killed the Ukrainian woman, and they had a clip of Trump coming and saving her, and it's just like ridiculousness. That's a setup. That's a total setup, right? But it's just that they can only find but so many of us because we're so rooted to the truth and to goodness. I'm not saying that there aren't people like the Philadelphia mayor, Cheryl, I think, I forgot her name by now, who aren't absolute despicable sellouts, but it is their ignorance of that N-word. Trump can't mention N-word, remember? And he didn't mean the one that they can't wait to be able to use against us and feel justified, which they will if they attach us permanently to the wokery mess and to the CCP, right? They'll be, see, we told you that they were N-words, right? But he can't say the nuclear because most people don't know about it. They would never listen to a sister like me, never. And so they don't know, even the ones who've totally sold out, that they are eating death with every bite. So that it's even taking out children. I mean, when you smoke cigarettes, you know, this is bad for me. But nobody gives their children cigarettes to smoke. But you got to give them food. So to attach us to this stuff, and I got to go over this woman right here. China's darkest secrets, baby organs for the elites. Thank you, sister Drea, for sharing that link with me. When I listened to that, I was just in shock. But I'm just like, China is not in a good state at all. But the thing is, they learned a lot from the Mongolian Empire, from Genghis Khan, Temuku, who It was when he was broke, when he was running out of money, that's when the Mongolians would invade other empires. So even though China is in a dire state, if they just can manage to take over a country and cause chaos and friction and madness all over the place, and white people are so ready to go along with that, okay? Because there are newspapers out there that I could tell you are paid by the Chinese, the Israelis too, because their stories align with keeping not only that N-word out of print, so you know the details about radiation, but anything untoward, like this I've checked this stuff. I'm like, oh my God, this is for real. This isn't a lie. This is what's going on. And going back to Johnny Somali. So yeah, all these different sites were talking against Johnny Somali, like you would figure he had his own army, but they don't ever mention what the Chinese are doing. That they have actually signs up in different areas trying to tell the Chinese, please be decent. I mean, I can't cover all the horror of what they do out there. And this beautiful sister and her king, Homestead Heart, excuse me, my nose. I'm not AI, by the way, and I'm learning to love my imperfections, because the AI, you could tell because it doesn't have human functions. But this beautiful website, Homestead Heart, went over the radioactive spices sent to the U.S. All of a sudden, people get upset, but this sister would never watch what I share. Okay? She would just assume, well, she's one of those militaristic pro-black people. No! I entreat everyone to work it out. All you have to do is just let folks know they've killed the friggin' Pacific Ocean. And don't share me, okay? Because it's something about just being a well-balanced, emotive black woman that makes everybody say, oh, she's worse than, I don't know, Hitler or whatever. No, I'm not the violent one. I want this to stop. They don't know how to stop it, so they keep it going. Okay, Trump with the, I'm sending troops here, there, to Chicago, first and foremost, when Chicago doesn't have the highest crime rate. And all those supposed another bloody weekend in Chicago. Who created the blood? Why don't you ever catch these people? That's all lies. They're perfectly okay with lying. Okay? And so I thank this sister for even talking about the radioactive spices. But it's in so much more. So much more. I mean, I've never seen them have a meme that's so dramatic, right? Let's even go take a look so we can see. Here it is. I'm not going to play his stuff because it's different when I talk about stuff. I'm like targeted for serious censorship because I say the word that Trump can't say. No, you can't say it. You can't say either one, Trump, right? One, because we are a separate, unique people. Without our right to determine our own destiny, we have no ability to thwart your lies. So no, you can't say the N-word, and the other N-word you can't say because your own are devils. Okay? So this beautiful sister right here was very, very upset about the radioactive spices. And she has canning documentaries and, I mean, not documentaries, but canning instructional videos. She, I guess, makes her own spices. And she was giving that, because that's who we are. We are going to try to help our people. But right now, Indonesia, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on in Indonesia. The common people, all the best to you for fighting the powers that be. But they got some petty dictator in control up in there, and I know he has got to be controlled by the satanic elite, or at least by the Chinese. And the Chinese are putting out there because they want to crash the Indonesian economy, or that their shrimp are radioactive and their spices, like everybody else's, aren't to some degree, and we don't know because ain't no testing going on. I want to build up capital so we get our food tested. I want to test it myself because I don't trust these people. I don't trust going to their labs to find out anything. They lie. They're part of the network. So I'm just covering some of, the folks that I'm subscribed to. Some of them a little on the difficult side, but at the same time, you want that truth. You want those facts, okay? This is getting a little bit away from the China, but I'm just saying in terms of if you are going to try to attach us to absolute indecency and immorality, I'm going to look at you and analyze what you're doing, which gets me to Sister Drea Lay's link that she shared with me. From what I can discern, this is a very brave, kind woman. As I said, I don't hate people just because you don't look like me. You don't look like my own. I support real diversity where we could gradually talk whole populations of people into loving what you were born to be so that you can reproduce yourself into forever. That's a beautiful thing. But with this radiation thing going on, that ain't going to happen, all right? But she covered what is drippingly. I mean, there's no words. I'm so tired of looking for extreme words to describe the evil that's out there. Because this report covers the Chinese using baby organs for organ transplant surgery. The baby organs have stem cells in them. So she very, very reasonably, very analytically covered how the organs will grow to an adult size within a short period of time. And this right here, where it was Putin, Xi, and Kim walking, and supposedly it was a hot mic moment where their conversation was captured and she was talking about offering the elites immortality. And I would, in my conclusion firmly, this was an advertisement. The organ transplant industry crime horror in China is off the scale. There's like 100,000 people who go missing in China, and it probably more. I'll leave the link to there it is right there. I'll leave the link to this woman's share that she did here, that Sister Drea. I'm so grateful to you for sharing this right here. Oh, I see what I got to do right there.
It was sky high.
Lent me so that I could hear about this. And the documentation she's using is written in Chinese, but if she wasn't translating it 100% accurately, then in the comments section, people would be railing her because Chinese people would be watching her share right here. And so this is something that they're doing where they even have women chained who are designated surrogates to make these babies. That the babies, as soon as they're born, they're not even allowed to survive. They just take them for organ harvesting, right? They started with the Falun Gong, which is a religious organization, a meditation organization that was reviving the average Chinese person's morality, because the CCP, since Mao Zedong, or however you pronounce his last name, or his first name actually, because Mao was his last, but they were teaching the Chinese people just to be ravenously self-interested. And because of that teaching, they just will agree to all sorts of things that I'm sure the compass of God is always in there. They know is wrong, but then they wind up deciding, well, I'm just going to do what everybody else is doing. Everybody else is grabbing. I'm going to grab too. And so they have these surrogate mothers that give birth And then they take the babies and take the organs out, and nobody says anything. The doctors say nothing, because everybody, with the economy in dire straits, now their entire auto industry is going out, just like their real estate went out with Evergrande, and it was under something called the 4 red lines. Now the car industry is going out because they built over capacity amounts of cars that nobody can afford to buy anymore. And because of the tariffs, which I do feel were absolutely necessary, because China, people don't do the research so they know China lies. The CCP lies. They'll say, oh yeah, we're working on improving that. We're going to get better with that. And then they never do, because they just want to get the heat off of them. Okay? The Chinese, they'll do a public announcement to the world, and the screen behind is always blue, always very calming. But then when they're talking amongst themselves, screen's always red. We looking for blood. That's what that says. Okay? And so you don't want to associate yourself with such an establishment, and especially based on ignorance, because the white people don't care. Right? They're like, we're running with the idea. We're going to run with the idea that Chicago's the most violent there is, so Trump could go in and do a pre-Third Reich move with troops, ignore posse comitatus all the way, and he knows it, and he just kind of laughs about it. I mean, in my firm conclusion, based on the evidence, he's yet another pedophile, only he is an unapologetic one. He is a public one. Okay? That's why I share, because it's funny to watch all these friggin' racist white folks out there having conniption fits over Trump, jumping ship like as if they weren't warned at the outset by various websites that Trump was not their friend. Okay? Their whole nature and way of being is not their friend. And definitely, go on over to 25,000yearcycle.org, where you're not just giving a donation, and I thank everybody who donates on the regular to Patreon or to my Cash App link, Radical Sister, $ Radical Sister. Radical is capitalized and so sister, right? But there's no numbers, nothing after that. I thank all of you who do that. But definitively, our products are top of the line. Okay? We're not the liars. We don't have filler in our stuff. We have what works. So you go there, and I keep talking about the books. You need this one with the solutions, with the methods that my tireless research have proven get this stuff out your body. Let me go over to the table of contents. And this book, they remove shadow banned on Amazon immediately. I'm just telling you. That's what they do. They want us. There's a massive, say it loud, we're black and we're proud, reawakening. It never stopped awakening going on, and they don't want us to know. That's a whole nother topic they don't discuss. So go there, get this book, because I ain't kidding you. That beautiful little girl. Wow. Was she eating the sea moss? Did her parents think that they were protecting her? What was she? Were they fish lovers? Were they taking in whatever, everything that's not tested, that's bristling with rads, and you don't need it to bristle for it to take you out, especially when you're young? Okay? You need this book so you can incorporate a full plan, strategy on how to keep your body as radiation free as is possible. My research proves that's just what it is. Oh, and I almost forgot to share this. This dude, he's racist. He doesn't know that he is, and he is very intelligent in explaining it away, but he's South African, like Elon Musk. And I don't know what kind of madness goes on in their heads, but yo, dude, you guys, you don't belong there. You don't belong there. You stole the land. Right? And so, yeah, they want to, that's how they do it. They flip it around. Oops, I wasn't sharing my screen. But he does a really excellent just delivery of the facts happening in China as far as, what's going on. But I'm just saying, Chinese people, they don't know us. They don't like us. They like being as white as possible. I don't care if Asians say, well, it's not that we want to imitate Europeans. It's just that, our elites were always inside and they would be so pale, and that's what we worship. It still is the same mentality, where even though everyone knows you need some vitamin D from the sun, I take supplements in the winter, D3, right? But I know I can't sprinkle some D3 in the soil of my indoor garden and it's going to make my plants grow. It's going to create photosynthesis. So you need that sunlight. But these people will go outside with friggin' burqas on, right? But nobody is haranguing them, and they don't think to themselves, why am I willing to suffer incapacity, illness, everything, because I just want to worship white skin? That's the same mentality. So they have going on there all of these different little on Douyin and whatever, Taobao, whatever they do, where they're just like saying the N-word and let's see, I don't know if I can capture it without capturing the sound, but she spells out, hi, I'm a racist, and she spells out the N. For some reason, it's not there right now, but she spells out the N-word, okay? You could go and find, it's China's hilariously bad fake LC, Tony knockoff, and skip all the other stuff and just go to this chick right here where she's just going over N. And that's the new thing they'll do. I've seen other little videos where they just will, like, I talked about it, go up to a little black child, take a picture, and then share it on their channels, and all the comments will be, what a monkey, what are this, what are that. These are not our rescue, the Chinese, the CCP. You see this? It is satanic. Then there's talk right now how Karl Marx was actually a Satanist. I'm just saying, there's so much. And I forgot to cover this. China was responsible for a huge toxic waste spill in Zambia that covers hundreds of miles, 1.5 million tons. Look at that. Killed the fish right away. Right away. People are so upset with the Chinese in Africa. Look at it. This Chinese manager beating relentlessly his employee. This is the constant treatment. That's why in China right now, in Africa right now, nobody is saying anything whatsoever about, nobody's reporting on it. There are a dozen, probably more nations rioting and looting and killing a couple of Chinese people, right? Over the fact that they're still poor. There were all these promises the Chinese made, and they have not lived up to a single one of them, and they treat the Africans like monkeys, like that exhibit they had in China where they were comparing Africans to animals, right? And so this is going on just to the Chinese, and there's all kinds of other people up in Africa. They need to get them all out, right? But they have Indians up there for forever. They have all kinds of other races and nations up in different African countries. They aren't bothering them, just the Chinese. And speaking of who we really are, the further away from white people we get, Burkina Faso. Ooh, salute to Burkina Faso. Bans homosexuality. The latest African nation to pass anti-gay laws. I do not recommend violence against those who are just, we need our nation to be fortified because the nation is like the skin on the human body. It protects your inner organs. Our children are our vital organs that give us immortality. We need to protect them beyond the village with an organized society that can thwart these liars, these devils. Oh my God, and here's LeBron James pens loving op-ed in Chinese Communist Party newspaper 6 years after Hong Kong controversy. Daily Mail is one of those places that's always never tells the truth about what's going on in China, but lately I've been seeing them picking a little bit, just very superficially, at China. And as I said, that's the setup, so that after they tell the truth about what's going on in China, they'll already have set up a new stereotype about black you and me, that we just live them commies. No, we don't. Okay? All right. Straight black pride is our forever. I love you. Peace and blessings, family.